Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be introducing Jason Klein from Alteryx. Jason was formerly a strategy consultant at Gartner, where he focused on the high-tech sector. He now acts as a senior market intelligence analyst for Alteryx, where they benefit from his efforts and expertise in the competitive intelligence space. He's gracious enough to give us a glimpse into his world today. So Jason, the floor is yours.
Yep, thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I'm going to walk you through a 5-part presentation, give you a brief history of win-loss at Alteryx, how we've scaled the program. And then the next 3 sections, I'm going to dive into best practices that I've learned as we've grown the program over the last 2.5 years. And then I'll plug Alteryx at the end to show how we're using our own platform to power win-loss ourselves. So looking at the history of win-loss, starting off with why we're here. So the goal with the win-loss program, why we started the program in the first place, was to really understand the voice of the customer across a variety of different dimensions. So we use win-loss to understand why users love our product and what buyers look for when evaluating different products. This is what we fit in the product dimension. We also get very, very targeted recommendations and customer asks on what they're looking for in our roadmap, and then we can decide on if we want to include them or if it doesn't make sense to at this time. In the sales experience, we use win-loss to understand what customers like and did not like about their sales experience with Alteryx. For example, in the modern world, buyers are looking for frictionless experiences, not just in the product itself, but in the buying process. And win-loss has told us this is where we need to do some improvement. In the competitive dimension, we use win-loss to get the voice of customer feedback on how we stack up next to our competitors. And then we take those concepts and then add them to our sales enablement materials like battle cards and cheat sheets for our sellers. And then with pricing and the value dimension, we use win-loss to understand the appetite for new pricing models. And in software and with cloudification of our market, new pricing models are emerging constantly. And so vendors like ourselves have an opportunity to differentiate, and we use win-loss to navigate that opportunity. And we use a third party so we can get the most information from our interviewees and to stay as objective as possible. And we've done a pretty good job. On the right are the business benefits that we've achieved with win-loss today. And how did we get here? So we started with a pilot. And in this pilot is where we built the baseline for our interview guide and really our entire approach. We used the pilot to understand the types of insights that we would get, and then we would gather that information and feed it to the main stakeholders, in our case, the ones funding the program. And we started our pilot program just on learning about our tier 1 competitors, how we stack up against them. In year 1 and year 2, they've mostly been rinse and repeat scenarios. Early in the year 1 phase was looping in additional people leaders and other department leads. And this really expanded the audience because once they saw the rich information and the insights that the program delivered, they started then encouraging their direct reports. And so each quarter the audience grew and they continue to stay engaged with both the new interviews that come in and engage with the portal, analyzing data on an ad hoc basis. And then because we've been able to scale the program, we've now got a rich body of competitive intelligence. We've got a firm understanding of our win-loss drivers. We find the insights are pretty consistent quarter to quarter. And we continue to get support and buy-in across the organization. So overall, it's been a very successful program here at Alteryx. Here are some of the use cases that we use win-loss for, and some of the best practices, which I'll talk about a little bit in further details later in the presentation. So I talked about competitive intelligence, and the way we get really rich competitive intelligence is we mix up the competitors. Each quarter, we mix up the type of deals that we're focusing on, the types of competitors we have, and we've now got a body of interviews for each of our top competitors. We use win-loss to plan out our roadmap, both for organic and inorganic activities. And we do this by taking what our win-loss provider gives us, but then taking it to the next level. So going deeper with the analysis. And I'll speak more about that later in the presentation. We absolutely learn about pricing and packaging and what customers are looking for and expecting with our platform. And we do this twofold. We use win-loss to both interview the customers, of course, but then we also follow up each interview with a survey and get some quantitative insights on how our pricing stacks up next to the competition. We use win-loss to inform our partner strategy, and we do this by selecting deals that involve particular partners and then asking interview questions about partnership dynamics specifically. We use win-loss for field training. This is one of the main use cases, and we expose the platform to sellers, and we also expose it to the leaders, the managers of sellers, and they've really adopted a really good train-the-trainer model here at Alteryx, and it continues to drive engagement with the platform. And we obviously use win-loss to better understand our differentiation, which then finds its way into our marketing materials. And we do this by asking the right probing questions. And so the best practice is changing the interview guide, changing the questions quarter after quarter. And so that brings me to my next best practice, changing the focus. So this is a small diagram of the body of interviews that we've been able to amass since we've started the program, over 9 quarters of interviews now. And we've evolved the program from quarter to quarter. It's not the same competitors, it's not the same deals, it's not the same interview questions. So with the competitors, we start off with our tier 1, then we moved on to our tier 1 competitors and then our tier 3 competitors. By the end of Q2 in year 1, we had really good voice of the customer information on 90% of our competitive deals and dollars. And then we've gone back to ask more probing questions about our tier 1 competitors in year 2. And when it comes to deal size, we try to mix it up. We try to understand different dynamics with respect to small deals, but we're hyper focused on the larger deals because understanding why we win and lose these larger deals has the most direct impact to our bottom line. And then with the deal type, we've mixed these up as well with each quarter of interviews. So some quarters we focus on wins and losses. Some it's just wins, trying to understand what were those best practices. And then in other quarters, it's about particular products or different bundles that we've launched. We're trying to see how are they resonating, how are they landing in the market. And through this, we get a wide variety of insights. But this isn't all done just by giving our win-loss partner a set of deals and having them go interview them. It's a coordinated effort that first starts with identifying the business need and opportunity. And these change quarter to quarter, it changes stakeholder to stakeholder. But it's the first step, because by understanding your business need, then you move into the phase 2. Okay, how are we going to better understand this business opportunity or challenge? You do that by asking the right questions. So then you spend time, and I spend time working with our provider to update our interview guide accordingly. And I never find that it's just one additional question. I usually provide 5 to 10 different questions, because the interview can hit this topic from any number of angles. And then finally, as we select different opportunities we want to dive into, change the interview guide, there might be different deals and different deal demographics that we need to pay attention to. If we're trying to understand, for example, partner dynamics, then we have to pick deals that involve a partner or a particular partner, as opposed to just a loss that was a big dollar amount. So this is the kind of general framework for how we mix up the deals and how we evolve the program quarter to quarter. The second best practice that I've learned is to start with the portal that we get, but then to go deeper, to conduct our own analysis. So what I really love about the portal, and what everyone really does, is that it's really searchable, it's interactive. Here's a good screenshot of why we win and losses. Of course, the details have been removed for this presentation. But it's really easy to find what they're talking about, because each dot maps to a particular set of quotes and interviews. And it makes these results really easy to share. But why do we do more analysis than what we're just given? We do more because we know our business better than third-party providers. At least we'd like to think so. We get a lot of benefit out of the full transcripts that we receive, and we find additional insights. And because we're finding more insights, we can actually take our analysis to the next level of detail. So let me show you what I mean by that. When we use our third-party provider, they'll probably find 4 to 6 themes for each interview. Why we're going to lose, they'll come up with the top 4 to 6 reasons why we won. It could be a pain point in a win. It could be something that kept us in the game and a loss, but there's generally 4 to 6 themes. And so it might say, like, it's a competitive element, and they might name a particular competitor. what I'll do when I'll read through the transcripts and I'll do the analysis is basically build another portal where I'll find, about twice as many themes as what our provider does. And then I'll do a similar analysis on what I'm calling the level 3. And this lets us to just get more robust analysis. And the better part about this is if I'm trying to find an insight, I can better search and filter through my quotes and my interviews that I'm trying to give to a particular stakeholder, depending on the scenario. So these are the reasons why we start with the closed platform, our win-loss provider, but then do our own analysis as well. And I'll speak more about this, what you can do with Alteryx to enhance your win-loss program. The third best practice is just to be constantly evangelizing the results internally. It's one thing to get the interviews done and have the portal and have it be self-service, but people are busy and they need to be directed to insights when it's important to their department and their line of work. So different mechanisms to get value from the interviews. First and foremost is just to have lots of readouts with your stakeholders. And what I do is I'll customize the content for each stakeholder. So if I'm speaking to sellers, I'll just talk about the sales experience. If I'm speaking to support, I'll talk about any bright spots or red flags when it comes to the level of support that we or our partners are providing to customers. When I do the readouts with stakeholders, I think it's really important to bring the actual interviewers to speak. So in this case, I would bring members from the closed team to speak to our internal stakeholders because they have that direct access, or they were there listening to the customers. Another best practice is just forwarding the interviews immediately to the relevant stakeholders. It usually sparks up a discussion or informs something that they're working on. And so knowing your customers' needs internally is crucial to success. The second best practice when it comes to evangelizing the content is to really infuse the content. Don't just let the win-loss interviews sit as they come, but to take the insights and infuse them into your sales enablement materials. In our case, that means battle cards, it could be cheat sheets, and it means just general training sessions where we help sellers and marketers understand our positioning and differentiation in the market. And it's interesting, as we've done 9 quarters of interviews, I'm finding a lot of confirmation on what I find to be the strengths and weaknesses of our platform relative to others. But it is super valuable that it validates what we include and that what we put in these battle cards and cheat sheets is accurate and is from the perspective of the customer, not from the perspective of an internal analyst like myself. And the platform itself, very much leverage the platform. I talk about how I do my own analysis, but I do everything through the platform. It's very, very self-service. And to do this, I give training sessions, and just to keep everyone engaged with the platform, I make sure everyone who's involved gets access to each transcript. So each interview that comes in hits their inbox, and that then maybe drives a conversation around how this is a really, really great interview. Okay, and then in the next slide, I want to bring up a learning lesson that I've discovered, and that's just to be mindful of the time. So we run our win-loss program on a quarterly basis, but that kind of means that everything needs to be done before the end of the quarter. And that's because you need to go through that phase of identifying the business need, then updating the interview guide, crafting the right deals. Only then can you start conducting the interviews. So you need to kind of have everything lined up and done and complete so you can share the results with your stakeholders, get their feedback on what the next business opportunity is, so that as the program administrator, I can take that feedback and ramp it up before we start the next round of interviews. And we do it on a quarterly basis, so we do it about 4 times a year. So being quick with the analysis and getting the results out quickly, I would definitely consider it to be a best practice. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about how Alteryx powers our win-loss program. Alteryx, for those who don't know, is an analytics process automation platform. We can do any number of analytics activities. We have a wide variety of connectors that you can bring it onto the canvas. do everything from data blending, diagnostic reporting, even predictive analytics. And then you can output it out into the business somehow. And we use our platform to enhance win-loss. So we use Alteryx to bring the win-loss data onto our platform. We enrich the win-loss data with additional data in our CRM system. And then we have predictive analytics tools as part of Alteryx. We can run predictive analytics to see which themes are most important in a sales cycle. We have sentiment analysis tools to do deeper analysis on the actual quotes coming in. And then we can actually use our integration partners to output the results. I mentioned that I look at quotes at a deeper level than what our provider does. We can make those available for myself and for other analysts to query and to do it in a self-service manner. So what I've talked about today is the story of how Alteryx has scaled win-loss. I've talked about some best practices on how we were able to successfully scale win-loss. I've talked about best practices I've learned as the program administrator. And I've talked about how Alteryx can enhance your win-loss. So if you're not using Alteryx today, start a free trial and see how Alteryx can help you. So that is my presentation today for win-loss week. I'm an avid proponent of win-loss and happy to be here presenting today. Thank you all for your time.